Hello, one and all. Thank you for joining us. I'm Matthew Shuckman, and I'm here, of course, with Nadia Martinez, and we are In Shambles, the Last of Us podcast show, where we're going to be talking about a lot of the whole span of The Last of Us, but specifically season two and the adaptation for the HBO Max show. And we're going to start today. We're talking about episode one. Nadia, oh, great to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Yes, GothamGeekGirl here. Super excited to talk about my favorite video game of all time, and I'm loving the Max series.
And when you say favorite video game all time, you mean both or just part two, part one?
Part one, but I am also obsessed with part two. I just think, of course, we'll touch on it later, but I think part two is a little heavier. I'm on my second replay now, actually. Part one I've replayed 5 times since 2013, obviously, because it came out for PS3. So I've played it for PS3, PS4, PS5, the remaster. But part two, I don't know if it has as much replayability because it's very heavy. But I love it. I still love it. I'm on my second replay now for part two.
Yeah, and for those who don't know us, I'm kind of the opposite. I mean, I played the first part when it came out and I loved it and I enjoyed it, but I'm obsessed with part two in general. Yes, more of the story compared to replayability maybe, but I am one of those people that's obsessed with it and love it, and I don't understand the people who did have problems with it. We're not going to go into a lot of the hubbub that happened around the time of its release. We will mention it as it goes along. And for those of you who are unaware, of course, In Shambles is both a reference to something that happens in part two, or a character type in part two, which people aren't aware of yet if they haven't played the game. But of also, of course, the emotional roller coaster of Last of Us puts me in shambles. I don't know about it puts you in shambles as well, so it fits both ways. But yeah, so we're both fans, and we're gonna do our best not to say spoilers, but maybe at the end we'll go into a little more, and we're not going to try and jump too far ahead of the game. And when I say the game, I don't mean the game. I just, in general, the idea of talking about these things. But we may, and so if you're going to listen to this, be aware that we are going to probably mention a few things that you may not be aware of as of yet. I think that's fair to say. But episode one's out. Nadia, what are your impressions, just in general, of episode one of season two?
just in general, I don't know if it was as exciting as the first season's premiere. I think us already being familiar with the obviously the story, the premise, these characters, and the game. Um, I think it was a good start. I like that they focused on Ellie and Dina. I think that was good, establishing their relationship early on, like that relationship that is blooming. I think they did a good job with that. Um, it's conflicting because I don't want to like get too nitpicky with things, especially coming from like a gamer standpoint. I do have to sometimes step back and
Mm,
be like, look, it's an extra hour of walking through the snow and picking up bottles. Like I like that they showed that she picked up the bottle as a distraction because that's something you do constantly throughout the game. Like the whole stealth mode thing. I like that they like touched upon that. But taking myself out of the gamer mindset because I was like, man, like there's a whole entire scene with Abby like literally like diving through the snow and like freezing and like fighting off all these like well not clickers but fighting off all these other like monsters and dead, and then it's just like they just showed her for like 2 seconds, but I have to get out of that like gamer
yeah.
mindset.
I mean, we'll definitely, and we're gonna get that. It's gonna happen. If no, if by anything, it should be the next
I
episode.
know.
But we'll see. I mean, I also would say that just in general, not even trying to compare it
Hmm.
to the game at this point, I do feel that this was almost. It's not a bad episode of TV or anything like that, but it's almost disappointing, especially compared to the first episode of the first season.
Hmm.
And it just felt and it's hard for me to gauge a lot of these things because while I have gone into seeing a lot of movies or a lot of shows, having knowledge of things before, when I was younger, I came very used to the idea of avoiding popular things like big name popular books because I know if I read the book and then saw the movie, I'd be that person to go like, "Oh, they screwed this up. They didn't do this." And I find myself enjoying things more like reading the book after I see the
Hmm.
adaptation, so on and so forth. And so this is the first time in a long time. that I'm going into something with the most intimate knowledge I can think I've had. And I I knew, and now we're going to get into a little bit, we'll go into specific discussions now. These aren't spoiler type things, I would say. But, and I knew, because I've avoided reading specific interviews or listening to certain interviews before seeing it, and I knew that they had mentioned that they were going to accelerate telling parts of Abby's story compared to in the game. But I do have to say I am shocked and a little disappointed that it came that they even went this early with that much exposition, which isn't even a lot. Because even though the game part two had leaks before it came out and people knew a lot of the story and the important parts of the story, it's like I use it like I make the comparison of Child's Play and RoboCop, like
Hmm.
movies that even if before you saw them you knew what was happening, the way they're put together kind of kept that mystery. And the game version, even if you know, it's a mystery who Abby and the rest of the crew are. You don't know what, and like now you just like you know why they're there, period. And that seems awkward to me.
I no, I completely agree with that because I feel like playing playing the game, experiencing how we experienced that timeline, like the only introduction we had of Abby early on was, like I mentioned, like her in the snow and like fighting off these zombies. That was essentially like the very first introduction of her. And this, I feel like as you mentioned, it was a little awkward having that whole like little like funeral thing like for the Fireflies because that
Yeah.
kind of is a reveal in a sense for people that didn't play the game. I would rather them find out by episode 8 who Abby is, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like, because the way we enjoyed the game, I would like television viewers that aren't familiar with it to also experience it the way we did, if that makes sense.
And I get it's not going to happen that way, and I'm okay with it. But there's certain sections of this where I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, and I appreciate it not being. I want it to
exactly.
be something different, especially as somebody. I'd want to see something different. I don't want to see exactly just pure representation of what I've already done. But this, and yeah, it's not giving away everything for the most part, but it is a. I mean, there are people I've seen reacting to playing the game for the first time, thinking it's like, oh, this person's going to be our friend, or I don't know what, and it's like it's weird to have, and then I'm not saying they're not going to be friends, to I guess to not ruin things. I don't know, but it's such a strange thing, and like I and I'm not gonna. I'll go back to things that I enjoyed and I like that they've done, but to go back to another point too, it's like you don't have to have the opening exactly the same,
Hmm.
but to have the idea of it's not even the whole thing. It's just the line of Joel saying, "I saved her." The way it's presented in the TV show and the way it's presented in the game are two different things. It's the same emotion from him, but because the way it's presented in the game now, I will say this for people who haven't played the game because it doesn't matter now. You've seen this already. The game literally opens up with Joel sitting with Tommy, telling him what happened previously,
Hmm.
and so it's him actually saying all the things he did at the hospital to Tommy. And I'm sure in this story he did tell him that, but we don't see that. And then Tommy going, Jesus, Joel, what did you do? And then him saying, I saved her, has a much different weighted feel to it, and much more
Yeah.
powerful feel to it. And it's Pedro's great, and it's amazing, and it's lovely in the show, but it's a totally different sentiment almost.
Not as impactful, I agree.
It's just so awkward. I mean, I enjoy the fact that they show us kind of her fight training, so it makes a little more sense that you see where she is along the way. It's interesting. I knew, and and I was completely fine. It made sense for them to show the celebration
Yes,
this early because for people who haven't played the game, that literally you don't see that. You hear about it, they talk about
you
it, but you
hear
don't actually
about it.
see that until 35 hours later when you're
Yeah.
playing the game. So it's fine that they show it, but there's no problem with them changing around the timeline, but it does feel weird knowing because in the game world, Dina and Ellie going out on patrol happens after that night.
Exactly.
So like feeling that it's in different spaces just feels awkward. It doesn't really, it's fine. It's not going to affect the story that much, but it does feel weird seeing it in that way.
I think I was a little thrown off by that too because they did show like a fun Easter egg when they were on the hunt. They showed the wall of the employees of the month and they
Yeah.
showed the dog. Because in the game that's a safe code. So
Yep.
I thought that was super cute. I was like, "Oh my God, I remember this moment."
And I love, and it's the other thing that shocked me, which I'm actually okay with them not, I shouldn't say I'm okay with them doing and not okay with them doing, but things that I can get behind a little easier is, but I was still shocked that they bought the stalkers this early into the story. However, in the same breath, why I like the way it works though, is because just like in the game, except that both Ellie and Dina fall through the roof.
Hmm.
But having them fall through the roof, great. But in the game, it's like you fall through the roof, and then there's a bunch of clickers and runners around. Like, why don't they all come running at you? Because then you just hide. And so it makes sense in a real world story why a stalker would not
Hmm.
be running at you. So I like that change, but I was actually shocked that it was this early in the show.
Yeah, because I told you I'm on my replay now and I forgot how many hours in I'm in, probably like
I'm gonna say you're about 12 hours from what you told me.
yeah, something like maybe 12, 13 hours in. And it's before I get to the
You're on your way to the
stalkers.
hospital.
And
I know automatically.
yeah, so I'm just like, whoa, they introduced them way early. I'm like, they like skipped like three monsters.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, based on what we know, I have a feeling we're not going to. There is the whole idea of them introducing it and the people learning about it in the world. So they take it to the council so they can hear about it. So there's a chance that we will get another Stalker this season, maybe in the section where you are at in the game. But I have a feeling we may not see them again until season three when somebody gets cut
Mm.
down from a tree. I'll try. That's as vague as I'll be about it. To when we may see them again. I don't know if they're going to do that scene or not. But and that's the thing too. It's like I know we know automatically from the trailers, and this we're gonna do our best not to mention why or what exactly it is, but we know one specific flashback from the trailers that we're going to be getting in this season one. But it's clear to me that they're going to skip not necessarily the whole flashback, but they're going to they had the whole that flashback that starts with Tommy and Ellie in the game
That's
back
much
4 years
later on
earlier of him
too.
teaching her to shoot with the rifle, which they
Yep.
kind of interacted into this season opener, which I like, which is great.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one question I was gonna say. Like, I'm curious how they're gonna handle a lot of the flashbacks because that is like integral to the story. So it's cool because as you're playing it, the way it's done in the game is it's kind of like essential for like what's coming next. So like let's say like the flashback that they show is when you get access to like let's say a new weapon or you're returning to this scene years later as a like with different characters. So it's super like interesting to see how the show is gonna kind of handle like the timeline. Like you just mentioned like the dance is essential in the story, but we saw that like much later on. So I do like that they're showing that now because it's also part of like the whole, I guess, like riff happening right
Yeah,
now with Joel and Ellie. So I guess it's interesting to see how they're gonna show it like not consecutively, but like how they're gonna handle the timeline stuff. Like
I feel like a lot of the Easter eggy type stuff they did put in, besides again like her picking up the knife off the table on
the
her way out the door,
posters, the
even though it's completely
cassettes, the
separate.
comics.
Everything like you saying in the supermarket, like I was actually waiting. Like when I saw the board beforehand in the background,
Yeah.
I'm like, they gotta like if they don't show a dog there, there's gonna be something wrong.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, they did it. But the fact that they mention Curtis and Viper so many times up front because and the fact they changed it to Dina claiming that she was going to go watch it the next night with Joel because that's the one weird, what I consider the one weird plot hole in the game is because we see a certain conversation later on in the game between Ellie and Joel, but the way it's mapped out wouldn't make sense for what she says early to Dina when they're on the run in in the video game when they're on their it's the Creek Trail run in the video game. Um, Ellie says that she's going to go. She can't hang out tonight because she's going to go with Joel to watch Curtis and Viper. And so I found that interesting. It's like a little fix, but at the same time also mentioning it. Um, and you know, it's just. I mean, I'm gonna have to see where things go. Obviously, I don't want to get too far ahead of the game here with talking about certain things, especially when it comes to Abby. I will say that so far, I mean, I know it's the little bit we've seen. I kind of don't like the guy who's playing Owen. He seemed a little off. He seemed a little wooden and kind of like out of place to me. But maybe it was just that one scene. I don't know. We'll see. But that's probably the one thing that really turned me off. It's like I don't like the guy that they chose for Owen.
Yeah, do you
Sorry,
want to
guy.
kind of get into the cast a bit?
If you want to, yeah.
Yeah. I actually was having a discussion with some of my friends earlier because when they announced like this cast, I love the cast. I think they're phenomenal, but I still think they should have aged Ellie up. I still wanted like a Ronda Rousey body type for Abby.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I think we'll get into we definitely get to talk about the Abby muscle issue at any time. But I think I want to hold the full discussion
yeah,
for when we get. It's probably not going to
more
be season three. I
physical,
think when we get a
I
little
guess.
bit more of her backstory with Isaac.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was one thing for me. I was like, ah, these girls are small, but we'll see. But I do really like the girl they cast from Alien as Dina.
Isabel Mossad.
Yeah, I think she's a great Dina, actually.
Yeah,
I
she
think
is.
she has her quirkiness and like a lot of the moments she shares with Ellie, I was like, oh, that's so Dina. Like Dina, that's how Dina would say it. Like that's the way Dina would move. I was like, I think she's perfectly cast.
I mean I like I forget his last name now, but Young Mazzaro is Mazzaro who plays Jesse. I think he also is a great choice for Jesse. I'm waiting because Jesse's a character that the way he's introduced in the game, I think it still works in the show,
Hmm.
but the way he comes off in the game is like, oh yeah, this guy's cool. You know,
Yeah,
he's good,
the cool
and
guy.
he becomes ultimately like I know everybody will say ride or die when it comes to Dina, but Jesse is like the most reliable person in the world, and like the type of character that you thought that they weren't going to go with in any type of story. And so I'm hoping they stick with that for his character going through the show. But I think he's a good casting as well. And I also surprisingly, even though he's an asshole, the character that is, uh, I was pleasantly surprised to see Robert Burke playing Seth. Uh,
Well,
because I
the
love Robert
bigot,
Burke,
right?
and it's kind of perfect when he popped on the screen. I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
He's
That makes
the
so much
bigot, right?
sense. Even though Seth's not that big of a character, it's perfect.
At the party scene. Yeah, that was great. I was like, oh.
Rob-
But I think they handled that scene
Excuse me.
very well.
I will say that I think even though he says the same kind of thing in the show he does in the game, I thought the wording and presentation of the game was actually more biting and damning than it's almost like under his breath in the game. Like he's not trying to say it out loud. Where in the game he's just like, sorry, in the show, but in the game he's just like really out there with it.
Yeah. So okay, this is bleh. So um in terms of Ellie and Dina, I think that scene was handled very well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Showing them like connecting on more than like a friendship, more of like a relationship level. Like Ellie's like whoa. Like I think that was handled fantastically. They actually do have great chemistry. But back to your point, I do agree that that scene felt rushed, I guess, in that aspect of his
interesting.
like bigotry. Like I think you were
Yeah,
right in the game it felt a little more impactful, like a slur, like a
it sounded like he was yelling it for the whole room in the game to hear, and compared to in the show where it felt like he was like just saying like as he's walking away under his breath, you know,
yeah.
kind of feeling. Um, but it's fun. You know, it's weird though because every time I see that scene, whether it now be in the show, because I know they showed it in some of the trailers too, or in the game, I can't help but think back to that trailer they had. I don't know if you saw it. It's like I think it's the second trailer for the game they
Hmm.
ever put out. Was they showed that scene, and as she says, "I think everybody should be terrified of you." The
Yeah.
camera pans back around Ellie's head, and then it just turns around to the other side of her, putting a knife in a guy's throat, and it's one of the most amazing transitions like in the world. And I mean, I know that's not going to be here. I'm not expecting them to do that, but I can't help but think about it every time I see that. So I was like almost like, oh, I really wish that just would have happened, but but of course it didn't.
And
Um,
curious, what are your thoughts on the new character addition of Gale, Catherine O'Hara? She's not in the game.
she's not in the game. I love Catherine O'Hara. First of all, I've loved her since I was a teenager, like since I was like a kid watching SCTV. So I love seeing her and stuff, and it's great to have her here. But again, and I understand what they're doing, and I understand we're gonna actually have some. It's weird. I got to see what they do with the whole because there's gonna be that Eugene either episode or partial
Hmm.
episode. So we're gonna see Eugene because in the game you don't see you see a picture
It's
of
more
him.
like the letters and the.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those stories where you hear about his backstory through there, through like journal entries and or
Hmm.
letters you find around when you're out on patrol. But this idea that Joel, I mean, I'm guessing he killed him because he got bit and he was forced to, but she saw it. She's upset with that. It wasn't, or I don't think they were doing any Fedra, like, public execution kind of stuff. So I feel like it's something a little more, like he had to do it because he was going to turn or whatever. But I'm just still so stuck on how powerful it might, especially since, again, this is not ruining anything because it's in the game earlier on that I don't think they're going to do it in the show based on what we've seen already. But even after, like, because that opening, you have Joel telling the whole story to Tommy, and then it comes down to Tommy telling him, is like, I'll take it to my grave. Like, nobody's gonna know about this. It gives you more of that emotion between these two characters, these brothers that we know. And then when you switch it off onto another new character, it doesn't it feels strange. Now that's for us. I don't know how people, or for me, I don't know how you feel about it, um, but I think for people watching the show, I'm interested to hear what they think.
Yeah, I guess that's one of those things like we're trying to, I guess, understand the translation, like how we were talking about when you're on the runs throughout the game, you're finding letters constantly. And this is kind of how you build the connections, like, holy shit, this person's wife and this story is super sick. Like this is super sad, like what these people had to do. So it's like in the game, that's kind of how you learn about characters. So seeing how the show is going to translate that is super interesting. But especially in this case with Catherine O'Hara's character, I'm like, is she kind of gonna be like that mediator point? Like, are people gonna tell her things? And is that how we're gonna kind of learn some experiences? Like, it's interesting to see Joel like have like a therapist. Like, I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that he had. I mean, it's clear that they have told Tommy because they have the scene with Tommy and Ellie here in the show where he knows that she was bit, so he knows she's immune, and I don't think this is ruining anything, but this will technically be like the most mini spoiler in the world. But I imagine Maria also knows, as she does in the game.
yeah.
Um, based on all this, I don't know. I will say that, and this is not a spoiler because it happens very differently, obviously, in the show from what we see in the trailers already, and we know it's coming. But so, it's obviously a good little cliffhanger to end off on, showing the tendrils coming through the pike, because that's obviously clearly how that horde's gonna know where they are, and that's why it brings the horde here. Somebody's gonna trip on that thing. So it makes sense to why that's gonna happen. But it's I will, and this is without saying anything. And I said to people, who were in the know, it's like, if anything, they're gonna hold off maybe to episode 2 with a big plot point. But I
Hmm.
really thought it should have happened in this episode. I really thought they should have went full bore on doing it all in episode 1. Obviously, they can spread, and honestly, the way they're doing it, I don't know if it's gonna happen until episode 3 now. I have no idea, but I am a little confused. Not confused, I get it, but I'm interested to see what they're gonna do because we spoke about earlier. For anybody who will ever see this, I have behind me some records facing. You can't really read what they are, but they all have songs on them that I thought should have. Because the name of the episode, for those who didn't see, is called Future Days.
Oh, I think they literally posted it right after you told me.
Yeah, and that I don't know. I mean, they obviously there's flashbacks. They show you of him showing her how to play the guitar. I don't know when it's going to come, but that song, Future Days by Pearl Jam, plays a very big part of the game. It happens again, like right in the opening of the game. And the idea was is that that album came out in 2003. I think it was like somewhere in December or something like that, after the TV version of the Apocalypse happened, which means because in the game the game takes place in 2013, the first game. So in the show, when they moved it to 2003, that album never happened. So maybe Joel doesn't know that song. So I was thinking about other songs that maybe they could use. And for anybody who wants to look them up, look up the lyrics or listen to the songs. Richard and Linda Thompson's "A Heart Needs a Home." John Cale's "I Keep a Close Watch," parentheses on this heart of mine. Morphine's "Take Me With You When You Go." And I couldn't find for some reason my copy of Procol Harum's "Salty Dog," which has the song "Too Much Between Us." All four of those songs. Go look at the lyrics for those in the know. Tell me those probably would have been good. Good. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe they're gonna use Future Days. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sorry. I ranted there. That was a big rant.
No, music is a huge part of the game, though.
I mean, that's most of the flashbacks are all spurred on by playing the guitar. And they have the guitar with the moth inlay. They have all the stuff there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they finally do with it. Um, but with all that said, again, not a bad episode, fine episode. Definitely disappointing compared to last season's first episode. I would say the only I didn't like the Left Behind episode because I thought in the season one because I thought it was the one that was basically and I know there are different changes, but it was almost exactly beat for beat that DLC. Like there was nothing different about it, so it didn't really spur me on that much. I'd say this is the next worst episode of the show so far compared to Left Behind. I'm not sure about what you think.
I think I like the Left Behind, because it like built that connection. Because it's also interesting seeing it in more of a chronological format
Mm.
rather than how we played it. Because obviously we played that way later. It was a DLC. So I like them like infusing it into the show because it also showed like Ellie being a kid and like like it was like a fun episode. I think those are also what the show has to do well because there's so much time in the game that's spent literally like hiding behind a wall. So
Yeah.
that's like an hour of gameplay could be 5 minutes in a TV show. So like those little moments like playing the guitar and like those special moments, even just like Ellie like going like this and like laughing with Dina, it's like those are the things that like make it human. So those are like the moments that they're gonna have to focus on like really like showing.
And yeah, and that was the same thing with the first season, and I was fine with it in the first season. There's just something about that I'm again, I know we're going to see this the second whole story game is going to span across these two seasons. But there is something to be said about the way you live with this game when playing it that affects you more than I think that's what's going to happen on the screen. I don't know. We'll see what happens when the whole thing, when I say the whole thing, I mean by the end of season three at this point.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot to be said living with doing all this stuff for hours upon end, that drain you in a different sense and not in a bad sense.
Well,
Uh,
that's what I mentioned about the replayability, because this also came out around COVID.
yeah,
And like this shit was depressing as fuck. Like it made me sad. Like inside, like internally, I was like, this is the heaviest game I have ever played. Like it took an emotional toll on me. And it was beautiful. I would not
yeah.
change a single thing. I thought it was phenomenal, the best storytelling I have ever seen. But back to the replayability part. The first one was still magical to me. It's my favorite game, but I think the second one was way heavier. So I'm just hoping the show will still have that same impact where you're like, I need to reevaluate life. Like,
Yeah, I don't want to get into my overall ultimate feelings about the story for
yeah.
the game because it will affect things happening in this season and season three. But I so desperately need to talk about them because it's to me not only is it just so generally important as a feeling as a whole as a story, but especially with a lot of stuff that's going on. I mean, it's been going on for years, but with the current state of we're in the world right now,
Oh yeah.
there's a massive mirror being held up, and I desperately need to talk about it, but we gotta wait until everybody who hasn't played the game, who doesn't know the story, gets the full thing. But with all of that being said, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I'm actually surprisingly, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, but I'm kind of worried, to be honest with you. And not in the sense like most people, like there's those fanatics out there who go like, oh, they didn't do it exactly how I wanted to get done. I hate it. I don't mean it that way.
Hmm.
I just was, it's one of those things where it was so impactful to me where I think it's more important. We have our mutual friend, my co-host on Overdue Rentals, Mike Reyes. Well, we were begging to get play the game before the show came out because we wanted him to experience that because he hadn't finished it yet. And I don't think he's going to. um, but it's like, and that also being said, now I'm going to talk about this as gently and unspoilerific as I possibly can. But when it comes to a very specific portion of the game, now for those who played the game, we'll say it's halfway through the game when you kind of get something unveiled for those who didn't know the story at that time, whether you did or you didn't, that's when it happens. That ties back into things you did in the and it ties back into what happens in the first season of the show, but in the game it ties back to the way people acted when playing the game, and I don't think that feeling is going to translate as well when it comes in the show because I think there was actually a lot of people who became very introspective about what they did playing the first game when that happens in this game, well, in this story, I should say. So again, I'm kind of rambling, but I just want people to feel the same way I felt, you know. And I knew I didn't play the game when it first came out because even though there were all these leaks, I didn't know about them. But a friend told me, thinking that I knew, and so I'm like, oh, screw that, I'm not playing this
I
now.
would kill them.
And I waited so long, and then it was before the first season came out. I'm like, you know what? I should finally play the second game because as the season was coming out, social media got all these things ruined because at first I didn't know certain motives of certain things, and now I knew the motives already. I'm like, God damn it. So I played it, and it was still massively impactful, especially the ending. I mean, that's like, and I love this is not giving things away, but I love watching people, even though I get annoyed watching people replay because I hate the way they talk over things. I love watching people like with the controller in the hand going, "Why are you making me do this? I don't want. No, I don't want. Can I just not do it? Can I just put the thing down and just?" I'm like, "Oh, this is so incredible," and I just want people to feel that. And I don't know if it's going to translate that way in the show.
No, I 100% agree with that. I want people to feel that impact. And that's what was so great about the games, the storytelling. Like narratively, it was incredible. So I'm just hoping they can make this work. Like I have faith they can make this work.
Well, we'll see. But for
Oh,
now, thank you all for joining us, talking about the first episode of season 2 for The Last of Us. We will be talking each week about each episode, and then, after and or in between, we'll also do more talk about the series as well. I think I also want to do some discussions about, even though I know every day it changes, like, oh, there's going to be a part 3. No, he says there's not going to be a part 3. Then there is going to be a part 3. I have some ideas as if there is going to be a part 3, what it should be, as a lot of other people do. So I would like to maybe get into some discussion about uh, what may happen in the third part, if there is a third part, as far as this the whole story. So part 3 of the game, and then if they end up filming it, season 4 and or 5 of the TV show, whatever it may be.
yeah, I
So,
don't know. I hope.
sorry.
No, yeah, I hope.
Well, till then, Nadia, always great seeing you, and we'll see you all next time. Don't get too far into the shambles.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's not a good line. I don't
we gotta
know.
find a closeout.
Don't I don't know. Don't eat any mushrooms. No, it's fine. Eat mushrooms. I don't know. We'll figure that out for next time, everybody. Bye.
Were we
You didn't
about
miss
to cut out
anything,
on
right?
time?
Sorry.
Were we about to cut on time?
Well, I have no idea. I just felt like that was a good place to end it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Was there anything you wanted to mention that we didn't
I just
mention?
wanted to mention the set, but that's fine.
Oh, sorry, everybody. No, we're still here. Let's talk about the set.
No, just in terms of the set building, it's absolutely incredible. Like the scenes look just like the games. Like that's one thing I think that they've done a phenomenal job.
Oh, I mean, that pull down shot from that's like, talk about one for one.
Yeah, like
That's
to
like
the
exact.
party with the lights,
Yeah.
and then also onto Jackson, like just Jackson, period. I was like, whoa, I feel like I'm there.
And of course, we forgot to mention Gustavo making his cameo. Like in the game, he makes his cameo, but he's outside playing. But now he's in the band. The gentleman who writes all the music for the game and the show.
One
Um,
other thing, kind of back to what I was
yeah.
saying earlier with Abby and the ice. I kind of wish that they kept it. I don't know. It's also t well, no. Then again, in the game, we didn't know who Abby was either. So I would have liked to see them establishing like who is this Owen guy? It seems like they have a weird relationship going on, and kind of like I don't know, a little peek into that. I mean, I guess I like that they're trying not to show us too much of Abby, but they gave us that whole opening sequence when also timeline wise, I was very confused because this is 5 years later. So at what point in time was this Abby thing?
Well, as far as the what we saw at the beginning of the show,
Yeah.
that was literally, I think it was 3 days after Joel and Ellie left the hospital.
Okay,
Because
so it
they, I
was
think he
then,
says,
because
you think
I
he
don't
says
think
they have
they
a 3 day.
established what
What is
year
it?
that was. So that also was like
That
we
was
know as
2023, 2023.
because we know from the game, but I'm just saying timeline wise, that was a little confusing. I don't think they showed what year that was.
Well, no, but Owen says they have a 3 day lead on us in the show. They have a 3 day lead on us. It was 3 days literally after the
The
end of
hospital.
the series of when we see Joel leaving in the car with Ellie. So that was 3 days after. So that was back in 2023. That scene.
Okay.
Yeah, that was just literally days after he shot up the hospital.
Yeah, because I was like, this is a little weird in reference to where we are now with Ellie.
Well, we're going to see. I mean, I know you probably you said you didn't see it. There was a little extended trailer after the credits, and they show the Seattle crew in the mansion.
Hmm.
So we are going to see them there, and this is like previous to heading out to go to Jackson kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so it's clear. I mean, again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't see how they can avoid certain story things with the
Yeah.
whole Mel situation, but maybe they don't do that. I don't know.
I
Uh,
mean, I did like that they discovered them because the lights were on.
mm,
That was a good point because obviously, like dead of winter in the snow, like you can see that shit. So I liked that they did that. That was like a good establishing point for them to find where they're located. But I still think they should have showed more of Abby and Owen's kind of
I mean, we're gonna
thing.
get some stuff, but it feels weird to us again because it's out of order in essence. Because again, that's the whole thing. It's like at this point, teaching her guitar is going to be a flashback, where in the game, we just saw it, then it flashed forward.
Hmm.
It was at that point where we flash forward, and the game was 4 years, now it's 5 years. Um, I don't know why the extra year, I don't, doesn't make any difference, I guess. But, um, so it is we're gonna have to see it happen, I guess. But I feel that I know they're gonna say that they want to tell the story in a different way here, or that's what they've said, and that's fine. But it somehow feels to me that they cave to pressure to keep certain things happening
Yep. That's
more
my biggest
so
worry.
compared to what we got in the game, which I thought was more impactful and should have been.
There's some like integral moments, like we'll obviously get into it later, but like let's just say the museum and stuff like that. I'm just hoping that they can successfully translate the timeline jumps, however they decide to show these moments.
I mean, we're definitely getting we've seen in the trailers. We're getting that museum. The question is it going to be the whole episode or just part of it? I mean, again, you go watch the extended trailer. There's an extra little piece of it. You'll see something. Uh, so, I mean, actually, it's not a spoiler, I guess, because it's in the trailer, so people know it's going to be there.
Okay.
But you're going to see a big T-Rex.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
just
it's like that's
one.
clearly, I think, the one flashback as far as that part of the story goes that they're going to get, I think, in the
Yeah.
first season. Not to say the other things won't be fleshed back upon, but that's going to be the one that they focus on. And I guess they'll save more for the next season or not. Because again, doing our best not to spoil things for people, it's like a game of halves, technically. It's like you get halfway through the game and then kind of things take a different road, if you want to put it that way, without trying to spoil it for people who don't know. Um, and at that point, it's like you're not to us who played the game. It would have been season two, this person, season three, this person, uh, and or I think the I don't remember now if I heard this right or not, but I think it's going to be they actually said it's going to go to season four, and so it's going to be season two, season three, and then season four is I'll just say Santa Barbara. I don't think that's giving anything away.
Really? Oh,
It's going to
I
be
don't know.
its whole
I
own
feel like
season.
maybe just do longer episode counts.
From what I understand, season four is just going to be all that. It's going to be
I thought
basically
they were just splitting it
that
into
portion.
two.
Yeah, no, it's. I thought it was going to be part of just they were going to do season two, season three, and that was it. But they said, I believe I heard them say they were going to do season four. I
Curious.
I'm just saying the word Santa Barbara. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
people, but I
And
don't think
oh,
that ruins
lastly for
much.
me, how did you feel about the clickers? I thought they looked like people in costumes. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, they always did, right? I guess.
I
I mean,
don't
we
know.
only saw
I
them from
think I need to go
behind,
back
really.
and look at season one because to me the quality looked down.
Did it really? Interesting. I mean, I only saw. I mean, technically, the one Ellie took down was the only one I saw. I didn't see the one that Dina was supposed to take
Like
down.
it
I don't
looked
think we
like a
saw that.
head with like a hoodie.
Well, just see. I think you see much more of just like evidence of like the back of their regular ear portion is just like normal from when she's stabbing it.
Yeah.
That's all you kind of see. But
I was like, I don't know. I feel like we've seen better zombie quality before.
I also felt that the face for the stalker was much more human than I was expecting.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
felt like they were a lot more weird, punky looking, like weird hair and
I mean, it's again, it's fine. I'm not that I wouldn't be upset about, but I was just I guess I wasn't expecting it. I mean, the whole stalker scene was done well.
yeah.
But I really thought from the portions they showed in the trailer, I really thought it was going to be the section where you are in the game because what I thought was when the trailer they show you crawling out what we see now is crawling out from under the display in
Hmm.
the supermarket. I thought it was crawling out of a safe when they first started the trailer,
Hmm.
and it made me think of that office that you're in on your way to the hospital. So I really thought it was still going to be there. But again, moving it forward's fine. I don't mind it.
It
And
makes
it makes more
sense.
sense for again through falling through the roof. It makes a
Yeah.
lot more sense. Um, but in the same breath, it was just like I was so shocked that it was moved up that far.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what the hell? Because I was like, it's weird, like nothing's moving. And then I was like, wait, no.
He's like, why do we have to follow Ellie down here if there's nothing in here? And then again, I knew again we all saw from the trailers that there was going to be a stalker thing, but I just didn't think it was this early. Um, and just seeing it crawl across the top, so it looked like a monkey almost when you
Yeah.
first started crawling on the shelves up there. Um, that I was kind of shocked, but yeah, it was I'm interested to see what they're gonna do. But I'm baffled almost
What
to a
was
certain
the
point.
thing that I said before? Bloaters, shamblers, and
Bloaters, shamblers, and clickers. Oh my.
yeah, bloaters, shamblers, and clickers. Oh my.
Oh my. Um, yeah, it's there's. I wonder if they're gonna even. I wonder if they're even gonna do shamblers.
I hope. I mean, I guess it's more of like a challenge in the game getting to these different things. It's like in the show, does it really matter?
Well, here's my thing, and this is what I will say again, and this is slightly spoilerific for people. I'm not gonna say specifics, but it's slightly spoilerific if you don't know the games. But like, it's almost like I imagine at this point that maybe they're gonna hold shamblers until season three, since we're probably gonna get more Ellie in season three than we were expecting originally.
Hmm.
But in the same breath, they got to do the Rat King. So if you're gonna do that, and they better, and again, this is again not super spoilerific, but technically very spoilerific. So please don't listen if you want to get surprised by anything to this one little thing I'm gonna say. But not only the Rat King, but they better burn the shit out of Haven. There better be tons of fucking fire all over the place. So like I think season two, the idea of kind of like forgive the term everybody, but blowing your load on the Rat King and burning down Haven, which I think they have to do both of those. That would be too
Because
much to
like,
also introduce Shamblers there. So I don't know. We'll see.
because like one thing with the game is like it's really. strategy. Like there's different ways to kill different creatures, like different like ways to play the game, like stealthily, like clickers, like you have to shiv. Some of the other monsters, like literally, like the Shamblers, just like throw whatever bombs you have, whatever traps you have, and like offload. So it's like with the show, it's not, I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to word this. Like in terms of like things getting more difficult as it would in a game. I'm curious, like in the show, like showing them struggle a little more, like if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm fine with it playing out differently in the show with a lot of that stuff. That's the kind of parts where compared to being the game, like I don't mind. It's like trying to explain to people who don't play games or haven't played the game the idea of like in the first season when they run across the Raiders at the campus where Joel gets his injury, and but when he chokes that guy out, trying to explain to people that playing the game is like 75% of you just watching yourself do that to people,
Yeah.
just like getting behind people and just choking them out.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a lot of it. And but not in a stupid way, but like it helps build that idea of how flawed and dangerous and screwed up this person is as a character by you doing that so much. And that comes across in the show, but there's a big difference of being the person who controls that and does that.
Mhm.
And I think that, again, getting into the stuff you do in part two of the story in the game, being the person to do these things is a lot different and it's going to hold a lot of different impact than we'll be seeing it. And I don't think you can translate that. You just can't.
Like I did also like that they showed a close up of Ellie cleaning the weapon. Because whenever we find a table, we have to like fix our guns and stuff. So it's like I like that they
You're talking about
showed.
her doing. Okay, I thought you were talking
Yeah, I
about when she
like
was
that
about to
they
do it
showed
because, like, well, she
like
got to do that, or she's going to cut into her stomach. But I just talking about the cut. Yeah,
yeah. I like that they showed like a little close up of that because it's like those are the things where like in survival mode, like obviously in the game, like we're gonna need to search every cabinet to find like everything we can use. In the show, they're not gonna show that for an hour.
yeah. There's
But
no
it's
workbench. There was no workbenches in season one, so it's our
yeah.
workbench for season two.
But it's like I like them like at least like showing like little tidbits of like you do have to craft a Molotov. Like it's not just gonna be there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are thing. It's also very funny, and this is kind of going off what you just different from what you just said, but it just reminded me of it because before I watched the episode, I was on the HBO site and I thought they were putting a different quote up, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe they're putting this up. But I realized it's a different quote. But it says the preview before the show started was a wall breaking open, the flare being thrown in, and the words "You can't stop this."
hmm
And again, without trying to be spoilerific, in my head, I kept thinking that was. I went back to watch it to make sure I wasn't going crazy. And I will say this without saying what's going on, but the what I thought the recording was the quote, and I won't say who says it, I guess, but the quote, "You don't get to rush this." I thought that's what I'm like. Oh my God! And then I realized, oh no, that's a completely different quote. But I'm excited to see that when that scene happens. Which sounds weird for people who know what I'm talking about, but I'm excited to see how they do it. I hope it's um, I hope it's super brutal. Not in a morbid way, but I hope it's super brutal.
Yeah, that I just hope that the show's as brutal as the game.
And I hope it happens soon. Uh, because I really think you are taking away the effect of the story by prolonging things. We're getting too close to spoiler.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are prepared for certain things now. But I don't want to get too spoilery. So I think it's best not to mention it beyond that. But man, yeah, I was kind of expecting more to happen this opening. And not that you need action and suspense and all this other stuff to be good, but I really thought it was going to be a little different. That's that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's because it's in 8 episodes, right?
I think it's 7.
So yeah, so I'm like they got a lot more to do.
Yeah, a lot more. I mean, because we know we're getting a certain something in this, and I say that I mean a scene that I can't believe they even put in the trailers. Um, and again, but they also put that they put that scene with Abby and the crew up front so early, with them wearing firefly necklaces and stuff like that. But, I mean, here's what I will say, because I don't think this is not a spoiler at this point. But again, even for people who got stuff ruined, there is no mention of anybody from Abby and her team having anything to do with the Fireflies until about the point you're at in the game, which is about 12 to 13 hours into the game story, which is almost halfway.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't like that opening.
I, I'm bothered by it. I'm honestly bothered by it.
I'm like, you're
Um,
spoiling things for people that didn't even play.
I mean, it's not that big. It's not the worst spoiler in the world, I would say. I mean,
But just like even hinting at things,
I
like
yeah, I agree. No, I and the thing is, there are plenty of people who, when they played the game, and plenty of people who are watching, when certain things happen in the game, will go like, well, why did that happen? Oh, maybe they're fireflies or something like that, and that's why but that was why in the game being in the WLF meant so much more, because you're like, where, like, what the fuck? These people coming from Seattle for all this stuff, and it's like, no, now we know, and that's like, I in my head thought it would. I don't want to say something because it's going to spoil it, but I had an idea before seeing this, is like how they could have had something that Tommy says in the game during a very important scene be said a little differently, that would, even if it was 5 minutes before reveal, would have thrown people off even more, and I would have loved it. And we'll talk about that when that scene happens in the show. Even though I am now convinced, without seeing it, that Tommy's not even going to be somewhere I think he's supposed to be
hmm,
in the game, in the show, compared to the game, which is maybe fine, but I think will also, if I'm right, has a big effect. But we'll save that for when it comes across in the show, and we can talk about it then.
yeah.
So I'm sorry for cutting you off earlier by saying goodbye before you have more stuff to say.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. No, we're good. We're good.
but I think now's a good time for finally really say goodbye to everybody for today, for this episode, and we'll see them all next time. Thank you again.